Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a topic that is, quite frankly, going to blow your mind. We are unpacking the jaw-dropping scale and engineering of ancient underground cities hidden deep beneath central Turkey in a region known as Cappadocia. We're talking about a civilization that literally carved their entire existence straight into the earth. To really wrap our heads around what we're dealing with today, I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine living your entire life, cooking, sleeping, raising a family in a totally dark subterranean world. No sunlight, no fresh breeze, just cold stone walls stretching out in every direction, going deeper and deeper underground. It sounds like a sci-fi movie, right? But as you'll see, this was the literal everyday reality for thousands of people. And you know how we even found out about this? The story is absolutely wild. Back in 1963, a local guy in Cappadocia was just doing some basic home renovations. He knocks down a wall in his basement, and boom, he uncovers this dark, narrow tunnel hidden right behind it. He goes down the tunnel, and he doesn't just find an old cellar. No, he walks right into the entrance of a massive, ancient underground metropolis that had been completely lost to history. But here's where it goes from a cool local find to a staggering global discovery. That tunnel wasn't just some isolated cave. Over the next few decades, researchers found over 200 underground cities and settlements in the Cappadocia region. 200! And get this, some of these subterranean hubs are actually connected to each other by miles and miles of tunnels. It's basically an entire hidden world, right, beneath our feet. To truly get a sense of the sheer massive scale of these structures, we have to look at the most famous one, a city called Derinkuyu. This place descends 85 meters, that's roughly 280 feet, straight down into the bedrock. Archaeologists have confirmed 18 distinct levels. Think about that for a second. An 18-story skyscraper, but built entirely downwards into the pitch black. And honestly, a lot of researchers suspect there are even more levels still waiting down there in the dark. Now, Derinkuyu wasn't just some temporary panic room. Oh no, it was a fully functioning subterranean city built to hold up to 20,000 people at once. And that's not just humans. They brought their livestock, their food supplies, their water, an entire bustling urban population living completely off the grid underground. So, this brings up a huge question, especially when we consider the geological challenges and the engineering techniques required here. How did they actually build this? They excavated an 18-story underground complex with no modern machines, no power tools, zero computer-aided design. They were doing highly precise milling in total darkness. How on earth did ancient architects pull off something this sophisticated? Well, the secret lies in the geology of the region, specifically a type of rock called volcanic tuff. Millions of years ago, ancient volcanoes absolutely blanketed central Turkey in thick layers of ash and lava. Over time, that ash compressed into tuff, which is highly unique. It acts almost like a blank geological canvas. Ancient builders realized that, hey, this rock is structurally sound enough to support a ceiling, but it's incredibly soft and easy to carve out using just basic hand tools. So the unique properties of this volcanic rock directly dictated the entire architectural layout of the region. Up on the surface, wind and rain sculpted the soft tuff into those crazy towering formations known as fairy chimneys. But below ground, that extreme ease of carving let ancient builders dig incredibly deep. They could hollow out room after room, expanding downward to create sprawling, multi-level urban environments. The landscape quite literally shaped how they built. Okay, so how do they turn this geological canvas into a city you could actually survive in? Let's look at the infrastructure. We're talking dedicated stables for animals, massive food cellars, even functioning wineries and oil presses. But the real engineering marvels here are the life support systems. They achieved HVAC-level air circulation deep underground. They carved highly precise 85-meter deep ventilation shafts, again, without a single modern surveying tool, that perfectly delivered fresh air and clean water all the way down to the lowest levels. It's an absolute masterpiece of ancient urban planning. And they weren't just surviving down there. They were heavily fortifying themselves against whatever was up on the surface. They engineered a brilliant, albeit intimidating, security system. First, they purposefully carved the entrances super narrow to force any attackers to walk in single file. Then, the trump card. They deployed massive circular stone doors, some weighing over half a ton. They would roll these giant stones across the corridors to block the path. And the genius part?
They were designed so they could only be sealed or opened from the inside, making the entire city virtually impenetrable. So, looking at all this magnificent engineering naturally leads us to our next major question. Who exactly were these master builders? And this is where we transition into a really complex enigma, because researchers actually have several wildly conflicting theories about who originally carved these subterranean worlds. Historically speaking, the timeline of who lived here is a pretty tangled web. The mainstream consensus among historians is that the Hittites began the early carvings around 1600 BC. Then, around 800 BC, the Phrygians likely expanded things. And we definitely know that early Christians and later the Byzantines around 500 AD massively expanded the networks to hide from Roman persecution and Arab invasions. Basically, every group that moved in dug a little deeper.
But here's where things get highly debated. Some researchers point to the absolute deepest original foundations of these cities and argue they date back way further, perhaps as far as 10,000 BC or even older. If those deepest sections truly are that old, we are partially looking at a timeline that completely upends our understanding of early human history. Mainstream science tells us that in 10,000 BC, people were simple hunter-gatherers, not sophisticated engineers capable of carving an 18-story ventilated underground bunker. Regardless of exactly when that first stone was struck, this massive, multi-generational effort forces us to ask a deeply profound question. What on earth were they so afraid of? Why would tens of thousands of people willingly give up the sun and the sky to hide in the total darkness of the earth? Well, let's look at the two main grounded theories. The widely accepted mainstream explanation is that these cities were the ultimate protective refuges against invading armies and persecutors, which honestly makes perfect sense of those half-ton security doors. But on the flip side, some point to the volatile geological history of the region. They suggest these cities might have been built to shelter populations from severe, catastrophic natural disasters. Think massive volcanic eruptions or extreme climate events that made the surface totally uninhabitable. Now, to cover all the perspectives represented in our sources, we must also neutrally report on a much more controversial alternative theory. A growing number of alternative researchers are linking these highly defensive cities to ancient texts from various global cultures, texts that describe periods when there were literal threats from the sky. Now, I want to be clear, this concept remains completely unproven and is definitely not accepted by mainstream historians, but it is heavily discussed among those trying to figure out why such extreme, deep earth hiding places were necessary in the first place. Ultimately, what you should really take away from this explainer is that the mystery of Cappadocia is nowhere near closed. The Earth is quite literally still revealing its secrets. Just a few years ago, in 2014, construction workers in a nearby city called Nevşehir accidentally stumbled upon a brand new underground city. And early estimates, they suggest this new complex could be up to 5 times larger than Derinkuyu. They think it could have held up to 60,000 people. And I want to leave you with this final thought. The vast majority of Cappadocia's underground world actually remains entirely unexplored. Only a tiny fraction of these tunnels have been fully excavated. So, as archaeologists continue to dig deeper into that tough rock, we really have to wonder, what other incredible feats of ancient engineering and what other missing pieces to our human timeline are still sitting in the total darkness, just waiting beyond the reach of our torchlight?